Okay, 2 nights ago we were learning the concept of Einem Miskaven. That means it's unintentional, and the concept of Sikresha. So we learned that in just a practical way. If you want to floss your teeth, and your teeth always bleed, so then you're not allowed to floss them on Shabbos, because even though you're not intending for it to bleed, but it's inevitable to happen because they always bleed, and therefore you wouldn't be allowed to do it on Shabbos. Or if you want to schlep a heavy bench on the ground, if it's for sure going to make a hole, then it doesn't matter if you want to or not, then it is you're not allowed to, because then nevertheless it's still making a hole. Now, okay, or I'll give you another example. You wash your hair, you want to wash for bread, so you wash your hands over the grass. Your intention is not to water the grass, but the bottom line is you're watering the grass. You can't say, I don't want to water the grass. It's inevitable that you're watering the grass. So we also started discussing 2 days ago, about walking into a room where the lights automatically go on. So then it's a shayla, even though you don't want the lights to go on, but nevertheless, they're going to go on for sure. But like opening a refrigerator door. So those are all problematic issues. So sometimes you have a problem, which is so let me preface it with one din. There's a din that's called Psikresha Delei Nichale. That means I'm not happy with the thing that's inevitably happening. I'm not happy, I don't want it to happen. I just don't want it to happen. So there is Taisus in the beginning of Ksubis brings down the famous Oruch that holds Psikresha Delei Nichale is mutter, it's allowed. But the halacha is not like the Oruch. Some people, not everybody, most people disagree. And some people say by Vaad Rabbonim, if it's only rabbinically forbidden and you're causing inevitably for it to happen, so then you can rely on the Oruch in the time of need that it's not forbidden. So you have many times, the other day we were talking about walking into a bathroom, but the bigger problem is you're on the 6th floor of an apartment building, and it's Shabbos, you can't use the elevator, so you want to walk down the stairs. Now a lot of stairways now, the second you open the door, it turns on a light. So they don't want to have the lights burning the whole Shabbos. So the landlord makes it in a way that when you open the door, then the light goes on. So now you have a shayla, can you go down those stairs on Shabbos? Because for sure the light is going to go on. Now if the stone wall is pitch black, that you can't see anything, and the light goes on, you can't say it's loy nichale, you can't say you don't want it, because it's going to happen, and you want it, you need to see, you couldn't go otherwise. So the question is, what happens if there's enough light without the light that you're opening when you open the door down the stairway? So is it possible to use the heter psikresha loy nichale? So it's a very difficult heter. Some people say if there's no choice, you could rely on the aruch, because the question is turning on lights biblical or rabbinic? According to many opinions, electricity is only rabbinic. It's still forbidden, it doesn't matter. Some people say electricity is biblical, some poskim hold electricity as rabbinic. So if you hold electricity as rabbinic, and then you don't want the light to go on because you have other lights that are there anyway to guide you, and you don't need those lights, so sometimes you could be makel. But the problem is, if it's really dark on the stairway and you can't see, then you got a problem.
Would you in a regular stairwell in a hotel?
Huh?
Regular stairwell in a hotel.
Is there lights or not?
It's light enough to walk.
If it's light...
There's always light.
No. Sometimes it's absolutely no light. We're talking about at night. Yeah, at night. The stairways, lavdafke. Okay, yeah, but that's not enough to get where you need to go. It's not necessarily enough to get where you need to go.
You go with 2 people.
Huh?
You go with 2 people.
What does that do? Shnaim Shos.
Nobody did it.
Nobody did it. 2 people did. We're going to learn that. No, we're coming up to that in a minute.
In a minute?
And the electric toilet's not necessarily always flush on the stand.
So then there's another din. there's a din. You have a big problem with the electric eye toilets. You finish doing your thing and you walk away, so then it flushes right away with the electric eye. So all these things, by the way, are very, very big halachic issues today. Because the question is like this. If it's directly happening right away, then it's a very big problem. If it happens delayed reaction, then halachically it's grama, it's indirect, so then you can be makel more. I'm not saying you could just be makel, but it's a reason to be able to be makel more if there's no choice. But if it's immediate, that the second you walk away, the eye flushes the toilet, then you have an issue. You have a problem with it. And a lot of times, groups make Shabbatons in hotels, and they don't realize that in the main floor, so in the rooms, they're usually not electric eyes. I'm saying in the main floor, there's usually, most of the time now, they have electric eyes. So airport, can be an airport anywhere in Shabbos. No, these are all issues. People should at least be aware that there's a problem with it, there's an issue with it. So that's a problem. What? What?
There are these toilet seats that when you sit on it, start getting warmed up.
That's another problem. You're going to have to do it standing. Before Shabbos, I'm saying, what happens? You walk into a place and it's already on Shabbos. Yeah, otherwise you have to unplug it on Shabbos. Another very important aspect of something to be biblically forbidden, it means it has to be permanent. Whatever you do, because Melachos Machshavos we learned that it has to be constructive, it has to be permanent. Which is, for instance, you're not allowed to color on Shabbos. It's called tzeveh, dyeing. So you're not allowed to dyeing, not as in dyeing dead bodies, and so it's coloring. So now, if you write 2 letters or you color something, it's biblically forbidden. But what happens if you write it not with a permanent marker? I'll give you an example. Your car is very dirty, and somebody writes on the back of the window, "Wash me." Or in California doesn't know what this is. In New York, there's something that's called the windows get fogged up, with the steam. So now on the window, you write 2 letters. So now, you wrote 2 letters. Or you wrote on the back of a dirty car window, you write, "Wash me," WM, wash me, 2 letters. The pearl, it's still rabbinically forbidden, but it's not biblically forbidden because it's not a permanent writing. But by the way, halachically, you write with a pencil, that's called permanent writing, even though eventually it fades away, but that's still called permanent writing. The only time would be, or you tie a knot that's not a permanent knot. Basically things like that. Okay, now there's another din that was brought up just before, and that is part of Melachos Machshavos means you do the work the way it's normally done. Now normally we gave those examples, but now here's where the din is. Normally when you turn on a light, let's say, you flick a switch with your finger. You don't have 2 people doing it. Okay? If I want to carry this siddur from place to place, 1 person normally does it. So what happens if 2 people carry out that siddur? Because it's not the normal way of carrying, it's only rabbinically forbidden.
Like you said, if 2 people open the door,
That's what he said. What happens if 2 people walk into the bathroom at the same time? It's still rabbinically forbidden. It's still rabbinically forbidden. It's not biblically forbidden, but it's still forbidden. So, for instance, sometimes in the case of a very sick person, for the sake of a sick person, you could do certain things. But if it's normally done with 2 people, that's the way it normally is done with 2 people, then if 2 people do it, then that's the normal way of doing it. For instance, let's see, this table, normally 2 people carry. I'm sure no, not this one. This one's heavy. One person doesn't carry this table. Yeah? So to carry the table, it takes 2 people. So then if 2 people carry out the table, then they're both chayiv. Why? Because that's the normal way of doing it. But if two people carry out this bag or a siddur when normally one person does it, so then it's only rabbinically forbidden. Again, it's not that you're allowed to do it, but it's only rabbinically forbidden rather than biblically forbidden. Another thing is, but this is another din that really would be biblically forbidden. For instance, the writing on Shabbos, to be chai biblically, you have to write 2 letters. 2 letters is the amount that we learn out from the Mishkan. Because when they wrote on the boards, to label the boards, which boards went in there, A, B, B, A, all that stuff. So then they would write 2 letters. So the Gemara learns out that writing on Shabbos is biblically forbidden when you write 2 letters. Aleph Bais, let's say. What happens if somebody writes Aleph? If somebody writes Aleph, so they did the whole act of writing, but not enough. It's similar to a concept. In order to be biblically punished for eating treif, for chazer, you have to eat a kazayas, an ounce. What happens if you eat a half an ounce? So it's still, it's an argument, Rabbi Yochanan Shlokish, famous argument in Yuma, the halachic Rabbi Yochanan, that half chatzi shiur asur min hatayr, it's still biblically forbidden. So therefore, if somebody writes 1 letter instead of 2, it's still biblically forbidden. Even by carrying, let's say, the Gemara, the Mishnah over there, and the Shabbos mentions various different things. How much of it is called carrying? This food, this thing, this keli, that. What happens is, let's say you need an ounce of food to carry out, let's say. And instead you carry out a half an ounce of food. So you did the whole act of carrying, but you didn't do enough of it. So that's biblically forbidden. Now you have another interesting case. That's called chatzi melacha. Half of the, by writing, you did the whole writing, just not enough. What happens if you do a half a job? I'll give you an example. Carrying, which we're talking about now. There's 3 parts to carrying. Picking it up, carrying it out, and putting it down. It's called an halacha akira, hotza, and hanacha. In order to be chayiv carrying, you have to pick it up, carry it, and put it down. So for instance, what happens if I'm standing in my house, I take an object in my hand, okay, and I put it through the window into the street. So if I put it in my hand into the street and I drop it, then I did all 3 parts. I picked it up, I carried it, and I put it down. By the way, if you have something in your pocket and you walk out, it's also picking it up in your pocket, walking out and putting it down. What happens though if I take something take an object like this, I stick it out the window, and somebody else comes and takes it from me and puts it down in the street? So I picked it up and carried it up, but I didn't put it down. So I only did 2/3 of the melacha. I didn't do, writing 1 letter means I did the whole writing, just not enough. Here, I didn't even do the whole melacha. I did 1/3 of it, half of it, whatever. So that's halachically only rabbinically forbidden. It's still forbidden, but it's rabbinically forbidden. If I write 1 letter out of 2, that's biblically forbidden. No, they're just opening the door to make noise. Anyway, okay.
Give it a slap in the bake, and they won't come back.
Anyway, so what were you saying?
So if you have an apple in your hand, you stick your hand out of the window or from
It's carrying. 1 second. If I stand in my house, take an object, put my hand through the window, and I drop it. 1 second. If I don't drop it, I only did 2/3. Correct? If I bring my hand back, but if somebody else, because it was never put down, but if somebody else takes it and puts it down, then the whole melacha was done. But not by 1 person, by 2 people.
Even though it's not 4 amas?
No, from inside to outside, you don't need 4 amas. In the street itself, you have to carry 4 amas. But from inside to outside, from private to public or public to private, as long as you go over the
How about karma?
commas we'll get to. That's rabbinically forbidden.
What happens with regards to chayla? You can do something that will be usher the deraisa. You do it, but although it's a chayla, you'll be allowed to.
No, a guy could do it, not the Jew. I said a guy could do it.
It's a yid, only two yid.
A chayla she'ein bas sakana yesh beis sakana. Oh, a dangerously ill. Yeah, you could do whatever you want.
I'm saying, but you could get someone else out to make it less of a.
If you can get somebody else to make it less of a sin, without,
But you're bringing him involved.
it doesn't really matter, because the sooner you do it, the quicker that you do it, the better is halachic, the mitzvah b'gedalim. When it comes to desecration of Shabbos to save a life, the mitzvah is to the greatest person to do it, to show that you have to save a life, and that's more important than anything else. Okay, what?
You can go into a bathroom when the light turns on. Is it public address to keep going in?
Once it's on already, you can keep going in.